What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Rex Righteous, and I'm back with another rap rant. Alright, so this one's gonna be about a lot of the stuff that's regarding Maxim Dadashev. I actually feel bad that I didn't watch that card. I felt connected to it, almost like, man, I should have watched it. Almost like I should have been there for that fighter. I don't know if you guys ever feel like that when it comes to boxing, like when it comes to every fight card and whatnot. You want to be available, you want to be able to watch it. And there are times that I just can't, life, whatever it might be, doesn't allow you or doesn't allow one to do it. So I felt a little bad. Timothy Bradley's one of my favorite fighters from the past decade. I really like his style. He's always got a bad rep for his headbutting and his big old head, just like Devin Alexander. But I still like him. I still like him as a fighter. He brings something different to the game. He also includes himself with sports and Nike and all that good stuff. He's just different from the everyday fighter. But regardless, Bradley spoke on his passing in a post, and he also talked about what was going on during the fight. So a lot of that stuff that was going on, he was one of the loudest voices at the time. If you go and check Fight Hype, they have a lot of the footage, Top Rank. You go to his Instagram, his Twitter, he speaks on a lot of this stuff. But I try to bring up some things on Twitter with some of the reporters, and I didn't really get a response from it. Now, I get it. There's always going to be red tape or areas that you just can't involve yourself in because, it could cost you, just speaking up could cost you anything when it comes to boxing. So you could lose your credentials, people could stop taking you serious, it's over. So, I don't know, man. People didn't want to talk about it, but I sure do want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. So, there was a link that I saw online, and I was thinking to myself, how is this gonna work out? Like, what's the outcome? And I saw a link there, and it said something about the Russian Commission paying for, covering for his family and covering for, like, the future of that family, of the daughter and the wife. And I think it's a daughter. I'm sure. I'm sorry if I got it wrong, but it sucks that it has to come down to a tragedy like this because, as a father, I know what it's like to put my life on the line every day for my kids, for my family, for my dreams, my everyday life and stuff. And it sucks that it has to come down to a tragedy for them to actually be taken care of. Now they lost their husband or the father, all that stuff. So, much respects, shout out to the family, and a prayer can go a long way, So, if you're into that, definitely send one out for the Dadashev family, Maxim, and or Maxim, as they were saying. But I find it really sad and messed up that this type of thing happens. So I just wanted to bring up some ideas because I don't know if my voice went that far. And if you guys like what I'm saying, then cool. If you don't like it, or if you don't want to hear it, then I won't cover it all the time. But I felt like it had to be said. Here's some few ideas for something like this. Now, before I get to those ideas, I do want to say that Bradley did point out that there were a few things that happened. So I'm going to point out my ideas. I'll point out what happened, and then I'll point out the mix of the two, which comes up with a conclusion and also leads to you guys thinking if it's possible or not, what's legal, what's not, what happens after a fight like this, and what does not happen after a fight like this. So, maybe you can educate me, we can start a conversation, we can educate each other. Now, if I want to, I could dig a little deeper. Once you get to the age 25, 30, maybe even 20, I don't know. But if you ever check on your friends list, there's always someone that might know medical. And I've actually know people that have done this type of business when it comes to medical. I don't want to put the name out there, but basically what it comes down to is, where were these people, the paramedics that are supposed to take care of the fighters after they got knocked out? There's no story, no one's talked about it, there is no mention of it. All I know is that Bradley was talking about it, and it didn't go that far. It just seemed like he said it and it just went on deaf ears, so I found that shocking. I'm not talking about the fight itself, I'm not talking about fighting styles. Boxers are going to get hurt, they're going to get dropped, they're going to get injured, they might argue with a trainer, they might quit before the fight even starts or quit in the middle of the fight. It happens. But when someone isn't taken care of, that's kind of strange. So for one, that should be taken care of. There should always be paramedics, somebody to look after the fighters, check on the fighters, see where their mental state is at, because supposedly Bradley was saying that 2 rounds before the fight was stopped that he was already leaning to the right. Okay, it's a fight. This is what happens. But if there's a doctor, he should be connected to paramedics. He should have a radio. Something should be going on. So if you've seen this in the past, then maybe this part of the fight was abnormal. Maybe something about this was abnormal. But there was no mention of paramedics showing up quickly or getting to Maxim right away. I do know that it costs money. It's not something that is just free or just welcomed or it's not like something that it's volunteer from what I've known. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you want to dig, you can get people to volunteer, but that's not my expertise. But I do know that there should be paramedics there, so that's not cool. Number 2, what I was gonna bring up is that if this is an issue where people are not knowing when to stop a fight because of a fighter or because of a ref or because of a trainer, if there's some kind of an inconvenience or some kind of messed up moment where things aren't clear, instead of going towards cameras, we should go towards digital, asking people to vote, bringing up, how a fight should go, basically. So let's say it's the 8th round. Fighter A dominates, outlands fighter B. The fighter B shows no answer to it. He's moving and he's moving and trying to push and punch and use his will and his smarts to win, but he's not winning. And let's say the percentages are just lopsided from all the other rounds. If fighter A has a certain record and the other fighter is just not a high caliber record, we should vote. so the ref doesn't have to argue with the fighter trainer side, so the trainer doesn't have to fight with his fighter, so they don't have a discrepancy. Just tell them, hey, we're not comfortable with, seeing anymore. This fighter should stop because we care about this fighter, and it should be over with. So just like a vote yes or no type thing, you can have 50% of the viewers, or however, I don't know, but somehow, some way, have the people in the arena vote for it if it's possible. And then from there on out, the fight could be stopped. And then, that gives motivation for that fighter B, to come back stronger, come back better. But then there's no guilt or blame. There's no, it's off everyone's conscience. It's like, so, it's funny because I had a little argument on Twitter with some guy that thought that the Pac horn shouldn't have been stopped, or should have went how it went, but Pacquiao should have been the winner, 7-5, whatever. I was like, yeah, I agree, because the first time I watched the fight, I thought the same, but now looking back, watching the fight so many times, because, that's a fight that everybody criticized and rewatched and took a look at it. And I think it should have been stopped after the 10th round. Now, the reason why I say that, because the records show, like, Jeff Horn's record was 16-0. Pacquiao was around 65, maybe 64, 63, somewhere around there. And in total, he has around 70 fights. And now he's going towards 80. So, being that Jeff Horn, I don't know his amateur career. I could be way off with this. But from what I remember, when I first heard about this guy, was that he was a school teacher and he was 16-0. So that means he has no losses. He doesn't know what it's like to lose. He doesn't know what it's like to be in a war, because even if he's winning these fights, if he's winning them, it shows that he's still coming out with victory, so he's not going through too much war. From what I've read online, even some refs were saying, or a judge or a ref or something like that, I think it was a ref, read an article there saying that they never knew Jeff Horn as a dirty fighter. So to me, that's telling. That's saying that he had to throw everything but the kitchen sink at Pacquiao in order to make himself get seen. Australia's all the way on the other side of the world. It's, not always brought up when it comes to fighting or boxing. Maybe I should say boxing, because when it comes to the States and everything we have over here, we don't have a lot of Australian boxers in our rankings. So Pacquiao was way more known than Jeff Horn. A lot of people said that online. I see groups with people from all over the world. Nobody knew who Jeff Horn was. They even laughed at him. But looking at what happened with the fight, that fight should have been stopped. Okay, you got a headbutt. That's cool. Everybody's looking at that headbutt. You're looking at the blood trickle down. Sunday morning, sun hot. They're fighting. But then once Jeff Horn starts to make Manny aggravated to a point where he starts landing like savagely, Jeff Horn kept going, doing the same thing that got him there, and then he started walking into punches that were lethal. They could take any normal man out if they're fighting, and they don't fight. So the referee goes to the corner, doctor's in the corner, and my first guess could be that if this ref calls it, and this is after watching it a bunch of times or thinking about it, if this ref calls it, he's probably gonna get followed to the parking lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not gonna just be able to go walk out scot free. That's the main event. That's their pride guy. Like, they're people that they root for this guy. He's a homegrown guy. So, it would have been stopped a little prematurely, but it's still a 12-round fight versus a super legend. So, to me, that fight should have been stopped. And that brings me to my third point, or my idea of what we should do with rules if they were to be heard or accepted or acknowledged. That there should be at least a guard or some kind of camera crew or something that secures a referee from getting hurt or beat up or followed or anything like that after a fight is over. Now, some Americans might be like, oh, that's ridiculous, that's crazy, it makes no sense. But if you listen to these guys' stories over and over and over again, and this is talking about all kinds of events, this happens, yo. And in certain countries, they get killed, they get robbed, they get beat up, never to be seen again. Research it. I don't know if it happens as much in this day and age, but that was in Australia, so that's the reason why I brought it up. So, this happens in football. Americans call it soccer. But yeah, that happens all the time. So, securing the ref, making sure there's paramedics, and voting. That would legitimize boxing a little bit more and maybe cause for people to watch it. But the problem is that when people start to acknowledge this, or the higher ups or whatever, once you let the folks come in, the fans or whatever, to dictate a little bit, it can cause for a lot of critiquing to happen, and then everything's going to change completely. It sucks because everything has to be in increments. You can't do it all at one time, But if they were to do that, at least start with the paramedics. Make sure that there's always paramedics there, or I don't know, just more care for some of the team, I would assume. Yeah, if you were to listen to Timothy Bradley's testimony on ESPN, he said that him and Max Kellerman were looking for the paramedics, and no one was around. No one. There was no paramedics around, and his team took them. And you gotta understand, like, his team are not trained professions when it comes to physical care like that. Like, they're trying to help you through a fight. They're trying to prevent any bad issues. But if the fight goes down where something happens, there's nothing anyone can do. So the trainers can't do much. Maybe they have simple CPR training or BLS training or something like that, but still, if they don't even have those two things, then a lot of times these guys are just crutches, moving crutches that are talking to them and letting them know that everything's cool, which is perfectly fine too. But that shouldn't happen. I know that, like I said, I know that people have to pay for paramedics and whatnot. Just like if you have a parade or whatever, or a permit to do something, you gotta sometimes pay for cops to be there. Or you gotta be on a different level for the cops to be there, and you pay. But people do that, you know what I'm saying? Especially for an event. I guess they communicate or they volunteer and whatnot, and sometimes it doesn't come down to money either. But let's talk about it, man. I'm gonna stop right here. Until next time, guys, stay tuned in. I want to give a shout out to all the YTBC, everybody in the boxing community, Laylo's Boxing, all my friends, Hector Franco, shout out to Thunderdome, all the guys doing the videos nowadays. What's this guy's name? T Street. Shout out to all you guys, man. BT, everybody on Facebook. Holla. Let me know what you guys think of these ideas, and spread the word. If not, just hit the reset button and see what happens from there on out. But at least give a prayer to Maxim. Alright, peace, yo. And don't forget about the Gervonta Davis fight this week. Peace out.